Hang out, we dey hang out. Play domino, we dey hang out. Eat up the barbecue, we dey hang out. What a nice day in a California. What a nice day in a California. We dey hang out. We dey hang out. We dey hang out. We dey hang out. Drink up the beer. We dey hang out. Eat up the rice and beans. We dey hang out. Drink up the stout. We dey hang out. Drink up the bitters. We dey hang out. 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 Drink up the beer. We dey hang out. Play domino. We dey hang out. Play cards. We dey hang out. Play spades. We dey hang out. Oh, what a nice day in California. Oh, what a nice day in California. The sun is hot. We dey hang out. Aye. Eat up the rice and beans. We dey hang out. Drink up the cow food soup. We dey hang out. Drink up everything. We dey hang out. Hang out with the ladies. We dey hang out. Hang out with the girls. We dey hang out. Play the drums. We dey hang out. Play punta rock. We dey hang out. See the ladies. We dey hang out. Los Angeles, California. Umala the studio in Los Angeles, California. Yeah, rocket, rocket, rocket. Umala the studio in Los Angeles, California. Yes, I.
¿Qué motea? ¿Qué motea?
Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock. Mareta Bay. Ay, Mareta Bay. Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock. Mareta Bay. Mareta Bay. Mareta Bay. Mareta Bay. Mareta Bay. Mareta Bay. Go banana. Mareta Bay. Punta Rock. Mareta Bay. Mareta Bay. Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock, then it go banana, then it Punta Rock. Mareta Bay.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, Miss Phyllis Cayetano, all the way from Dangriga, Belize. With the Guño, with the Rabamweyo on the West Coast. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have Professor Phyllis Cayetano, all the way from Dangriga, Belize. Your weekly radio show from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that is. Not Garifuna time. Kemotia.
Every year, this year time. Every year, around this year time, people come together on the lake shore drive. People come together on the lake shore drive. Some swimming, some diving, some playing chess, some playing volleyball, some playing football, some playing basketball. Summertime here, summertime here, summertime here, summertime here, summertime here, summertime here in Chicago.
Un saludo para Honduras. Big up to all Honduran people in the house listening live. La Ceiba, Tegucigalpa, bienvenidos esta noche. Gracias por escuchar. Nueva York.
At the park, children playing, they are sharing, barbecuing. The white people riding the bicycle around the park, around the beach. Some got on cha-cha-cha to cool off their feet. Some got on slippers to cool off their feet. Some put on suntan from the sun. Some got on straw hat to cool off their head. Some got on no shirt to cool off their body. I tell you, summertime is here. Out in the ocean, you could see jet ski, paddle boat, canoe, sailing boat. Summertime there, summertime there, summertime there, summertime.
Summertime.
You could see them
Yes. Kemotia.
laying down on the beach, taking their sun bath in the hot, hot sun. Volleyball, football, basketball, running all around. Summertime there, summertime there, Chicago, summertime there. I tell you, summertime is here. Come out of the house. The house is too hot. Summertime here, summertime here, summertime here, summertime here. Not even the AC works nowadays days in Chicago. Summertime, summertime here, summertime here. Leave the house, summertime here, summertime here. Take the kids, summertime here, summertime here. Take the kids to the beach, out of the house. Take them to the park. Take them somewhere cool. Summertime here, summertime here, summertime here, summertime here in Chicago.
Welcome to Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We present our weekly radio show every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We have interviews from Aurelio Martinez to Consigo, Gado Nunez, Gloria Osiris, Lord Agustin, Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga brings them all to you on our weekly radio show. Listen live on your home computer, smartphone, iPad, and notebook. Every Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook through Ronnie Figueroa. Also on TuneIn, if you don't have the application, download it for free. Welcome to Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome tonight. Tonight, Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga is proud to present Miss Phyllis Cayetano. So Miss Phyllis Cayetano will be live on the phone all the way from Dangriga, Belize tonight. So we hope to get a good interview. A lot of people were excited and are excited to know that we are going to have Miss Phyllis Cayetano, a pioneer, a professor who has been putting the work in Belize and throughout Central America to keep the culture alive. And now with the leadership and as a manager of Gulisi Community School in Dangriga, Belize, we are going to welcome at 7 o'clock Miss Phyllis Cayetano all the way from Dangriga, Belize.
A woman works hard every day. 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 Early in the morning when she wakes up. Early in the morning when she wakes up. Monday she cook the food. Tuesday she pay the bill. Wednesday she wash the clothes. Thursday she iron the clothes. Friday she get she pay. A woman works hard every day. 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 Early in the morning when she wakes up. Early in the morning when she wakes up. Monday she wash the clothes. Tuesday she pay the bill. Wednesday she wash the clothes. Thursday she iron the clothes. Friday she get she pay. We know you have to look up before you hit the street. Fix up your hair, get your nails done, get your toes done, get yourself together. So when you hit the street you look so good. Woman! How hard must a woman have to work? 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 She work on Monday, and she work on Tuesday, and she work on Wednesday, and she work on Thursday, and she work on Friday. Day. By the shout on Monday, you could hear the words. Hard time, catch and kill, hand to mouth. 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 How hard must a woman have to work? 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 She work on Monday, and she work on Tuesday, and she work on Wednesday, and she work on Thursday, and she work on Friday. Day. By the shout on Monday, you could hear the words. Hard time, catch and kill, hand to mouth. Hard time, catch and kill, hand to mouth. Hard time, catch and kill, hand to mouth. Hickey bite, hickey bite, hickey bite, hickey bite. Sit down on it, sit down on it, sit down on it, sit down on it. Wine on it, wine on it, wine on it, wine on it. Dance on it, dance on it, dance on it, dance on it. Hickey bite, hickey bite.
Okay, family, we're getting to that time. 7 o'clock. Welcome, RadioCentroamerica.com. Welcome LMBRoots.com listeners.
Hickey way, hickey way, hickey way. Sit down on it, sit down on it, sit down on it, sit down on it. Wine on it, wine on it, wine on it, wine on it. Dance on it, dance on it, dance on it, dance on it. Hickey way, hickey way, hickey way, hickey way.
Welcome to Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We are live from the studios in Long Beach through RadioCentroamerica.com and LMBRoots.com radio in New York. Every Wednesday from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We bring to you the best of recording artists, musicians, producers, and musical directors behind Garifuna Music. So welcome to Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga and enjoy my show tonight. Beautiful music. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is here. The time is now. We want to welcome all the way from Dangriga, Belize, one of the pioneers, one of the women, one of the, I would say, a person who has been so busy in the community, doing so many things to improve the things, not only in a beautiful country such as Belize, but also in the community, in the Garifuna community. Right along many other women who are at the leadership of making things change, you know, the movers and the shakers. So we want to welcome Ms. Phyllis Cayetano tonight. And first of all, I would like to thank you for accepting this invitation to do an interview with Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We had the opportunity to interview your husband, E. Roy Cayetano, a while ago, and now it is your turn to interview with us and give us the honor to find out a little bit more about the woman behind Gulisi Community Primary School, about the woman who was awarded the MBE by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth XI. You also serve as Deputy Mayor of Dangriga Town Council. Also participated as a member, as a chairperson of the Garifuna Settlement Day celebrations between 1972 until recently 2013. And you also served as the president of the National Garifuna Council. And of course, Foro de Mujeres member of the Women's Forum in Central America. So how are you this evening, Ms. Phyllis Cayetano?
I am fine, thank you. And I want to thank you profusely for giving me this honor. And also mention at this point that I would like to dedicate this evening to the late Andy Palacio, who way back in 2007, when we started Gulisi Community Primary School, had already forged a relationship with your organization, with Cheryl, with Gafu, so that you could support us from time to time with school supplies. And incidentally, last night, in preparing for this evening's interview, I came across letters that Cheryl and I had shared, and which showed that by March 2008, Andy had already passed, but by March 2008, Cheryl had sent a barrel and boxes of some school supplies for us. Gafu had done that.
Yes.
And we need to continue to be grateful, because whatever I do or whatever we do with the assistance not only of the Almighty but also the assistance of others. And so I want you to know that we have never forgotten your generosity, and it is coming here or being here tonight to talk about things that I have done, and sometimes I just was in that place at that time and offered my assistance. But the things that I have done because others have helped. And sometimes our efforts go unnoticed, and that's okay, because in our hearts we were doing it not to be noticed, but we were doing it for for other people. So I wanted to dedicate this to Andy, because even today he is he is the hero of the school. The song Amuyego, hymn song of our school, because as he had said as he sang that song, he was saying, Kabagi Adugo, who is going to do these things? Amuyeg, and that's what Gulisi stands for. We want to make an intervention now so that later on we will be able to say we tried, and so I wanted to put that on the table from the beginning.
Thank you so much, Professor Cayetano. It is very touching to reminisce and talk about such a wonderful person and the legacy that Andy Palacio left to all of us. He was the one that came to GAFU and said, Ronnie, Cheryl, I would like to put our brains together and see if we could do a little fundraising and maybe help the school in whatever we can. So he offered to have a free concert, and all the money that was collected at the entrance of the admission for the function would be to buy school supplies, and that's what you were referring to. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We're very elated. We're very happy to have you, Professor, because you have set the standard, and the standard is very high for a lot of the Garinagu out there who are trying to do things in the community. I thank you for your kind words, but I think that we haven't done enough to help such a wonderful project. I think Gulisi Community School needs to be replicated in other countries where there is Garifuna people, to be able to replicate not only the teaching process, but also the cultural aspect, the musical aspect, the agricultural aspect that goes along with it. But we will have the time to really get into those details as you kindly will detail and tell us the things that are going on, the things that you have been able to create under your leadership with Gulisi School. So thank you again and welcome to our show. How is the family?
Magadetua, we are doing quite well. When you reach my age, I celebrated my 70th birthday last week.
Wow.
And I was blessed to
Wow.
I was blessed to have a son. My last son was born on that day also. And our first granddaughter was also born on that day, so that in the house we declare August 15th as a public and bank holiday here in our house. And the family is doing
That is great. Beautiful. Congratulations on that.
Yes, the family is doing well. Right to Goele and Roy Indura, there is a summit going on.
Yes.
With Celio Alvarez and Odeco. They're celebrating the 4th year after that historic cumbre that we held in 2011. So Roy is out of the country, but Magadete, I know that he is. He's been in communication. So we're doing okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And of course, It seems like a big family, happy family, and that's the way to go. I mean, life is too short to complicate things, and we are happy for your happiness and for the kind of work that's being done by you, your husband, and your children in Dangriga and around Central America. My first question, Professor, is I would like the audience to know where you were born and who are your parents.
Dangriga Nagreho. I was born in Dangriga, then known as Stan Creek. And my mom, who passed away about 14 years ago, Celestina Miranda, Ni Reese, Sumutu, Abahawahatu Tina Reese. I was my mom, and my dad, Charles Miranda, who passed in the 80s several years ago. Those were my parents. And I went to school here, primary school here in Dangriga. My mom's family, my grandparents, my grandfather was Methodist, my grandmother was Catholic. Italian, they got tough. The school that is closest, maybe that's where they go. So
okay.
My mom, yes. So my mom, likewise then, I started at the Methodist school, which was like 2 blocks away from our house, and later on I moved to the Catholic school. So I went to schools at the primary level here in Dangriga, and was very fortunate. After passing the Standard 6 exams, the scholarship exams, I think in the United States we are talking about grade 8. And after passing those exams, I won a scholarship to attend high school in Belize City. So I went to St. Catherine's Academy, which is a prestigious girls' school. It still is today, and let me see, it's about 133 years old since it was started.
Wow.
It was started. We celebrate that this year. And so I went to an all-Catholic girls' high school for high school as well as junior college. I want to say, if I may, that my mother was a very dominating person. I won't say domineering. She was extremely strong and worked hard and wanted to see the best for her children. So that at that time, even if I had wanted to, let's say, stop at the high school level, my mother didn't allow that. She thought that I should continue to go as high as possible. Wow. One of the things that she, I don't know where she got the idea from, but she noticed that the children attending Catholic schools, like they had better opportunities for higher education.
Yes.
So that in high school, she said, well, you should join, you should convert, we'll convert, and you should become a Catholic now. But in a Baste room Catholic, I converted.
Wow.
And after high school and junior college, and I started teaching at Austin High School, I was fortunate to have been granted a scholarship by the Jesuit priests at that time to study in St. Louis. And so Ladofna Garia had a tanushu. She had a vision. She had felt that the Catholics gave more opportunities to our children in those days and maybe even today. And that is how I was able to continue to go higher in my education. So roughly, more or less, that is what, happened there. But my father, I come from a family of teachers. The Miranda family, my father was a teacher. He was a school teacher. My uncle, I have cousins who were teachers, and then I went into the profession. But our children, Roy, my children are not teachers. They do something else.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you for this wonderful narration of part of your life growing up in Belize. We have quite a few people online who are interacting, and there is some people who say hello. We have Glenn Sampson listening all the way in Texas. He works in the oil fields. So Glenn Sampson says hello. He says you are related, and he sends his greetings to you and the family. Well,
Glenn. Glenn's grandfather and I Tira, he had two sisters' children, so I can call him a grandson. Sir, many abu Glenn.
Great. You see, Glenn? You got it, Glenn. Also, big shout out to Cynthia Flowers, who is tuning in. Lali Nunez in Las Vegas, Nevada is also tuning in. Caroline Sams from the Sams would be, if I'm not mistaken, from the Sambula family, also listening tonight. The Sabal family, somewhere in the United States, a lot of people, and also the fact that everybody is very excited and waiting to hear more from you, Professor Cayetano. It's great to have you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are live tonight. On the radio, we have radiocentroamerica.com in Los Angeles, and we are also live on www.lmbroots.com radio in New York. That's the second largest home to the Garifuna community outside of Central America and outside of Yurumen. So hello to Brooklyn, hello to the Bronx, in Manhattan, in so many beautiful places out in New York. So thank you for staying tuned in. We have a full house tonight. We also have listeners in Los Angeles, in Chicago, Illinois, en Tegucigalpa, Honduras. Saludos muy cordiales para la gente linda de Tegucigalpa y La Ceiba también están en sintonía. Thank you for listening, Tegucigalpa and La Ceiba. They are tuning in tonight, listening to this wonderful interview. With that in mind, Professor, I would like to ask you, so talking about your upbringing in Belize, what is the difference that you see? I mean, of course, there is an obvious difference between the teaching that took place back in the days where so many things were included as opposed to today. Can you talk about your upbringing in Belize and what it was like back in the days?
I think that in those days, and I have already revealed how old I am, I'm grateful to people like Lali, who is listening, my cousin, the Sabals. They all know that we go way back. And in those humble days, high schools started in Dangriga or outside of the city of Belize around 1952, 1953. So there are many people who pull themselves up in the police force, in the nursing profession, even in the government offices, on their primary school school leaving certificate. And in fact, even when you interviewed Roy, even though high schools had started in the Toledo district and Barango Liabi, getting into a high school was a rare opportunity. And $5 a month tuition was extremely expensive at that time.
Yes.
So that when schools like Austin High started around 1952, 53, other high schools in Belize City were 80 years old or whatever. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So that when you got an opportunity to go to high school, it was an investment that your family made. And the whole family had to pitch in to support, and people who didn't make it, either they failed, sometimes because of the strictness of the churches, a girl who became pregnant could not continue school.
Wow.
Those things were hard on parents. I mean, parents, no me haba mutu aba terengu no tonahal negatiro l'escuela tanege voucher. The parents felt that child was going to be an investment. He was going to bring in big money to the family when he became a teacher, etc. So that today our children take a secondary, even a junior college education for granted. That couldn't happen in those days. And sometimes a family had to make a decision. I'm going to send the girl, or I'm going to send the boy, Tamare Dubahian, she find a husband. She doesn't have to go to high school. Today, in Belize, the government takes care of tuition. You don't have to pay tuition if you do not fail. The government pays that. So that whether the school charges $40 a month or $50 a month in high school, the government takes care of that. The government even gives maybe $300 in the South for, to help towards registration. And so there is a vast difference. The opportunities are here today, and it hurts me when I see some children, some people not taking advantage of it. Bicentennial Hamor Mehahidi High School, they would have liked to go to high school.
Yes.
So that is, and then in those days, I mean, if you lived in my mother's house, you could not tell my mother you were not going to school. And
Ouch.
a lot of people listening to me remember that you could not tell your mother you were not going to school. But today, even some people who get a scholarship to study nursing, a scholarship to go to the teachers' college, some of these people, sometimes they don't even show up at school. They fail, they repeat, and they take 3 years to finish a course, and that is happening even in the United States. Am I not right?
Yes.
You know,
yes.
we see our children. We have a generation that's not as ambitious as you and Cheryl and many other people who were doing housework, who were security guards, who were working hard 7 days a week, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs to send money back home.
Yes.
So that their children could go to school, and those children turn out being spoiled like they take granted. So something is seriously wrong with the mentality or with the values that we have allowed in our children, because we need to know that the opportunities that are present today, many people would have wanted those opportunities even 10, 15 years ago, but they were not there. So that's a big difference that I see.
No, definitely. Thank you for that information. I think it really touches the heart of the people, because it does make you remember how strict those days were back in the, I would say, 60s and 70s, and things have started to change a little bit in the 80s. But I think that mentality of having to send your children and see it as an investment really gave value to the opportunity to go to school. So you knew that you had to perform and you had to be your best to be able to give back to what the family had contributed towards your education. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live tonight all the way from Dangriga, Belize. Is Professor Phyllis Cayetano. She is a pioneer in the educational system in Belize as a country, and also pioneer as a manager for Gulisi Community School in the town of Dangriga in southern Belize. We are live through RadioCentroamerica.com in Los Angeles and through LMBRoots.com radio in New York. And we are very blessed to have Miss Phyllis Cayetano tonight. I want to thank the opportunity that the people in New York give us to come to the comfort of your home and transmit and pass on these beautiful interviews. And these are the leaders of today's society, is today's Garifuna community. I also want to send a special shout out to those beautiful people listening in Chicago. Thank you to Dale Ogaldes, who's always tuned in. She is listening to our beautiful interview tonight. As we keep talking, we get more people who are joining as far away as Guatemala. We have San Pedro Sula just tuned in, Houston, Texas, Katy, Texas. Welcome to Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Ms. Phyllis Cayetano on the line. My next question, Professor, is if you care to share with us, well, you already mentioned that. I think you already mentioned the fact that you attended the schools that you mentioned earlier. But how is your Latin? Were you able to really master the Latin? Because I hear that a lot of the teachers, such as Mr. Clifford Cayetano and many of the teachers that have come out of that era, were able to learn the Latin. Latin was part of the education back in the days in Belize.
Latin was part of our education, yes. Remember that if you went to a Jesuit school, a Catholic high school, and in those days, even the Mass was said in Latin, remember? Or maybe you're too young to remember. But I studied Latin, and even in our schools in those days, we took foreign exams. We took exams, Cambridge exams, the GC exams, CXC exams, and our younger listeners, whom I had taught, will remember having to sit 6 of those exams, 8 of those exams, etc. I was able to take Latin and take it, study it at an advanced level to pass Cambridge exams out of England, along with other subjects like general paper, geography. Because the more subjects you passed, the better off you were. You could have access a job at a higher level, and so on. Today, we have students from high schools, even here in Dangriga, that are sitting in subjects. So that the 6 that we took, or the 8 that we took, look like nothing to them today. So and that puts you at a standard. A competitive standard with people in the Caribbean. Because when we look at accessing jobs here or in the Caribbean, then we can say we boast of our achievements. Going back to Latin, I'm glad that I studied Latin, because I even studied Spanish in high school.
Yes.
And it put me in a position where I can hold my own in Spanish in any part of the world. And Latin, as you know, Latin and Spanish, those are Romance languages.
Yes.
So when we look at, even when I majored in English, and even when I look at some words that I may have never encountered, there are times when it's the Latin that, because that's a root language, it helps me to figure out the meaning of the words. I was, you had mentioned about my association with women's organizations in Central America and
Yes.
And also Latin America, because I have also the Red de Mujeres, of Latin America and the diaspora, and I have been even secretary to those organizations because of my Spanish, and I am not perfect, but I have an educated way of presenting myself. And it is not, in fact, in Belize, we would say that I do not speak kitchen Spanish. I speak Spanish from a learned point of view, and with friends and all my traveling, it has become easier. Today, you in the Caribbean, you have to go to maybe a private school to get Latin. It's as if they don't have it on the curriculum anymore, and it's a pity, because it really helps in your foundation if you want to understand or even speak many languages.
Yes, totally agree. Wow, this is great. You inspire me, because I never took Latin. I knew a little bit of Latin because Spanish is my first language. So as I remember learning the structure and the grammar of the Spanish language, we were able to be introduced to a lot of the Latin words that were part of the language of Spanish as it is. So, but from there, as I learned English when I came to America around 1983, I was able to pick up English a lot easier because of the Spanish root of a lot. And of course, like you said, the Romance languages share the same root. So English has a lot of that. So it was so easy for me to relate and to be able to learn another language because of the foundation that you talked about. So this is great. This is a big advantage, and those days are long gone. I don't think Belize has that anymore, but I think it should be implemented again. It enriches a person to the level that you have no idea. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the studios in Long Beach. This is DJ Labuga, Ronnie Figueroa for a lot of you, and we are live in the studios, of course, through Radio Centroamerica in Los Angeles, www.radiocentroamerica.com, and in the Bronx through www.lmbroots.com, where we have the majority, I would say 80% of the listeners at this point are in the East Coast. And of course, there is a lot of people in Texas, in Nevada, especially in Las Vegas, where there is a lot of Belizean, Garifuna, and Creole living there who are tuned in. So welcome to our show. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful audience, we are here with Professor Phyllis Cayetano, all the way from Dangriga, Belize. My next question, Professor, or would you like to take a little break? Would you like me to play a song and while you drink some water, or are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay, great. Okay, so you mentioned your children. We would like to know about your children, their names, and where are they now?
Okay, the three boys live in the United States. My first son, Isani Ere Garif. I think that even I can say that when we came up with that name and gave that name, a lot of people were stunned because we are accustomed to names like Phyllis and Roy and Patrick and John and Charles. But Roy and I felt, and we were older people, very mature. When we got married and had our first child, we had young people have at the age of 18. Mm-hmm. But we wanted a special name for our child, whether it was male or female. And we talked and worked on the name because we wanted to create a name almost in the same vein that you create a child. So we did not want to pull anything from a calendar or the Bible or from a dictionary. And so we named the first child, and he was a son, Isani Ere Garif. And Isani, of course, you know that offspring. He's the son, Ere Garif, and Garif is from Garifuna, and translated it means the son of Garifuna's strength.
Wow,
okay?
That is beautiful.
Yes, we wanted him to be able to say, this is what his name means. I don't know what my name means. Maybe I have to go to a Greek mythology to find out about a fish. And yes. So we named the Isani Ere Garif. And people were amazed that we could use our own language to name. Gibeya Isani Ubog. A lot of people have either used the name, also made names, came up with names because they admired that they can actually have a name that has meaning. So, in fact, I will say that before we finalized the name, we had come up with so many names that I still have an old exercise book with names going from A to Z.
Wow.
Lina Garifuna, and helped a lot of people. I tried to help them to create a name. Our second son is Emeni. Well, that's his second name, Red, but he is Swami Emeni Irisi, and Swami is a word meaning love. And Abawabihini Emeni Lumage Emenigiro, he was going to be our pendapan, as you say in Creole. But we didn't say Emenigi or Emenigiro, and we cut it short to Emeni. And his third name is Irisi. So his name is Swami Emeni Irisi. Love, he's our love, our pendapan, or the one we can depend on, dependability, and wealth. Lada warisi warahi adea. And our third son, Ibime, and then he was born. I think I gave him that name because what better gift can you get on your birthday, right?
Yes.
So he is sweetness, Sereme, and I thank God for him. And Ebu is the support. Well, he is the last child, and Ligeba Hamuga wants support later on. So the three boys, that's how we came up with their names. And I think that we have many, many people all over the country now. Central America, you have Darina, you have Laraini, you have Anigi, you have all of these beautiful names. Anihe, Wababa, Anihe, Warisi, we have all of these names. And my granddaughter, we have granddaughters. The first granddaughter, Afieni tivisi tanigi liga tiribe. But it must really aloha iri hamage mutu yara Hollywood hamage mutu log basketball courts let get what is iri lirage werero tirage waye. We can come up with names that are original and unique to us. In my work at Gulisi, sometimes when we do registration, we have the most beautiful names for the children, and we can see that even when the parent, like Tissien, I have a grandniece. The mother said, "Can you help with a name?" When you say that your name is Tissien, it is saying something, and people ask. So it's not only in Mother Africa that the names have meanings. We can also have meanings in the names of our children if we take the time to say, I am going to create a special name. Okay? So, and then I can give the anecdote about my own mother-in-law being very surprised because remember we have Spanish names. We have Dora.
Yes.
We can have Celestine Nuguso. We can have Carlos, Enrique Berisum but to share a name Isani Kagiluir Iri Lira, it's almost Kamahimama Iri, per Uguen Leti, 30 odd years later, it is a name, and many people, there is another Isani Cayetano who is a journalist, he's on the TV station here, and many people think that is my Isani. But Mama Isani, Amu Isani Liapele, Abati Hiri Adia, Abahiri. And Gayada Nugenti Hambe is their name. So anyway, that's enough about my children.
That is beautiful. We just had a lesson on Garifuna names. That was wonderful. I was taking notes. So ladies and gentlemen, don't worry about it. If you didn't have time to copy down a lot of the names that were thrown out there, because we are recording the show, so we'll be able to upload it on our Gafu channel in YouTube, so you could conveniently play it back anytime you want and be able to get ideas for the names of your children if you're pregnant or if you're having or if you're planning to have babies. Yes, you could always visit Miss Professor Phyllis Cayetano's Facebook page. She is there. She's present there. And, of course, inbox her for reference on names. I think it will be free of charge for that. How's that? Wonderful.
That's right.
I am so proud of the work that you do, even with the family. It's amazing. But I'm also, I wanted to add that Professor Clifford Palacio, who is living here in Los Angeles, has also shared a list of names, possible names that you could use for your children. I will make that available. He put it out there for us to distribute freely. So if you are interested in getting a copy of the list of the different names in Garifuna and the meaning of each name, we will make it available to you via email, Facebook, however you want to have it. Don't worry about that. We'll make it happen. Thank you, Professor Phyllis Cayetano, for that. That was very enriching. We're going to go to the next question, but not before. I would like to mention that we have Young Lion listening in the Bronx. He's also one of our own staff members of LMBRoots.com radio. Wonderful DJ. He is tuned in right now to our show, Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. Thank you, Young Lion. Thank you, Giovanni Silva, and all the wonderful people out there listening in the Bronx. It is 7:38 Pacific Standard Time, 8:38 in Belize, and of course 10:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in all of Eastern United States. My next question, Ms. Phyllis Cayetano, is you have had a big share of the responsibility for the preservation of the Garifuna culture in the country of Belize. Can you share with our audience some of the work that you have done in and around not only Belize, but also Central America and the Caribbean? Please.
Oh, boy. I think that question alone could last the entire show.
It's loaded. Yes.
It's very loaded. And I don't even know where to start. But I will start by saying that my mother and TV Ramos were first cousins.
Oh.
Okay?
Wow.
My mother and TV Ramos were first cousins. And therefore, I grew up in a household that showed a lot of respect and reverence for the work of TV Ramos, whom we know is the founder of Garifuna Settlement Day.
Yes.
We also know that TV Ramos, the movement that he started, people didn't understand, and that happens with leadership. Sometimes people don't understand what you're doing. They don't support you. They think you're crazy, and sometimes it's only your family that is going to support you in the first few years.
Right.
So TV Ramos was someone like my cousin, the Sabals, who are listening. That's their granduncle, etc. That even the Sampson family, we have TV Ramos in common. The history says that when TV Ramos started his movement in the late 30s, sometimes it was only his family that was in the parades. They were the ones at the meetings, etc. So my family had a lot of respect and reverence, and so I grew up in that family, in that kind of situation. As I went to school in the city, I had said that I attended high school in the city, Hamagyon, Hamachumagun, and it gave me an appreciation of who I am and how I probably appear to the rest of the world, but in the sense that, okay, I was at a school that had very few black people at the time, and so you had to square your shoulders and say, listen, they are not smarter than I am, they are not better than I am. I know who I am, I know I can speak my language, I have this richness of my culture. So that after finishing junior college, and I came home, I was able to associate with great leaders at the time, the late Ellis, the late Theodore Palacio, for example.
Oh, wow.
John Arana. There were people who were following the CDS, Carib Development Society, and those men and women were in positions now as in agriculture department, in the teachers' colleges and so on. They were in a position that they could lead, and they saw some leadership qualities in me and invited me to participate in some of those activities. And one of the most memorable was the first Garifuna convention that was held in Georgetown Village around 1965 after Hurricane Hattie. We hardly had the Southern Highway was not completed per Chulutu Durugu Painigien, Chulutu Mutsen Beidigien from Dangriga, and we held workshops. Georgetown prepared for us, and we were there for 2 days at Dimahawa Garino. We have always tried, people have always tried to keep the message, the Layumaha, the aspirations of TV Ramos alive, so that today, when we look at Garifuna Settlement Day, it shouldn't be just about song and dance. It should be about a lot more. TV Ramos was a writer, so when you go back in the archives of Belize, you can find the letters that he wrote, the poems that he wrote.
Wow.
You can find the letters from people who worked with him, such as Mr. Ventura, Domingo Ventura. You have people like Profilio Marin, people who partnered with him. And in those days, they say, MTV Ramos and CDS, Chilutio Barranco, they went to Barranco, they went to all the villages, they went to Barrios, they went even to Honduras. But those people were influenced. They had heard about the movement of Marcus Garvey.
Ah.
And Marcus was pushing for recognition, and the Marcus Garvey movement is in Nicaragua, it is in Costa Rica. So there were these people, even though they didn't have internet and the phone that you and I are talking on tonight,
yes,
they read Alihatio, and they knew what was happening, and they passed that on to us. So that after after I came back from university, and the elders invited me, they begged me, people like Darius Martinez, and I mean, we have a lot of people, we go back to like Walter Valerio and so on, people who were asked, Haruf Daher, we are nurses, we are teachers, can you help us with our movement?
Wow.
And that is why I spent many, many years in Garifuna Settlement Day. But I want to mention that when I went to college in the United States, the civil rights movement had started. And I did not see myself there as a black person. I still saw myself as a Garifuna person.
Yes.
And the black people at my university were saying, we don't care if you come from Belize, we don't care if you're Garifuna, you are black. And the Black Power movement was so when they went on strike at the university, I couldn't go to school because I had to, I was barred from school because all the blacks have to be united. So when I came home, and I was with the committee, I saw that we had to assert ourselves as Garifuna people, our language, our music, our dance. Some of my listeners will remember, some of our listeners, they'll remember Wuriba Gabaga Dance Group. It was an international dance group started by people like myself, Canon Jerris Valentine, Mrs. Myrtle Palacio, and we wanted to be able to portray our dances leader, Lilugaru. We wanted that when we performed, rum was not on that stage, our uniform, our skirts were below the knees, Midi Badib Adiga Magulle Gulwag stage, that's what we wanted to perform, to show the world that our culture, our songs, our dances, our rituals were important. They're precious.
Yes.
And they had meaning. That dance group, Wuribagabaga, was invited to perform in Central America. In the La Buga, we were in Barrios, we were in Mexico, Festival Cervantino, we were in the United States, Miami, Brie, and so on. We have some members of the group, not all of us, some members of the group even went to Europe when they through the Arts Council here in Belize.
Wow.
And even Carifesta, this week for Carifesta, I think next week Carifesta will open in Haiti.
Yes.
Our dance group attended Carifesta in Jamaica, attended Carifesta in Cuba. And we took older people as well as younger people. Fino, Auntie Chica, Mudun Hayatun, Lagutu Culture Boxego,
yes.
She went with us. Noko went with the group, because we know we have to respect the knowledge of the elders. And those elders held their own on those stages in the Caribbean. We started that group. It is no longer active. There are other dance groups, but we wanted to emphasize you can't just go with modern dances. Modern dances will change, but the traditional dances, you have to keep them.
Yes.
And so Gulisi Community Primary School, the children are young, but we teach them the traditional dances as well as the modern dances. We teach them the traditional songs, but they also will sing the modern songs. They love Punta they love Sea Wheels, they love Adrian, they love Sung Leremo and the Palacio Subu City Home. They love those kinds of songs. So I have always been involved in movements such as those for the preservation of the language, the music, and the dance. And so I fast forward to working with Gulisi, which we started in 2007. And I think I could have helped then as I am helping now because of my long association with Garifuna language, music, and dance, and because I have been an educator all my life. So in a nutshell, those are some of the things that, I have worked on. But the most, I think, important of all is my participation in the founding of the National Garifuna Council. Before 1981, every village and town in Belize had its own celebrations. It did things separately. We thought Roy, myself, and some other leaders felt that we needed to come together so that we could lobby the government for benefits for our people together. We didn't want this tongue to go see the Prime Minister on its own, and then the next one come the next day, and the next one come 5 days later. That did not seem like we were working towards one cause.
Right.
So we decided to work with the leaders of the time, and in December 1981, we started National Garifuna Council. There are names, there are people who were there with us only for a short time. But, there are people like Silas Cayetano, may he rest in peace. There are people, Austin Flores, he came in later. There were people like Antonio Galdes, who was chairman for about 3 months. I was the first president for 2 terms. We had to get our documents, get the organization registered. We had to go from village to village and educate our people because we wanted to have a legitimate organization to represent all our people. And so we have been in existence, this year is going to make 34 years, and it hasn't been easy, but at least any organization, like we say that we are the voice of the Garifuna people. There are other organizations, pero den liabi look came to Walesquela, wagi abugurbar Walesquela, our radio station, the museum. Those are some of the achievements that we had worked towards, and there's a lot more that can be done.
Yes.
But the same way, the older people looked for me and said, Phyllis, can you come? We are asking people to come, but I don't think that young people want to give the time or want to learn or want to volunteer the way other generations have done. But they have to do it. They have to do it because Keme Terengo, Tita Esther Guerrero, so on. What we are doing, Father Gado, we are going to move on, and we do. But we will be able, or history will be able to say that we tried, and we want the young people to also say that they tried,
Yes.
So there are lots of other things that I could say, but my goodness, magumba do hamaguyole.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, and for the youth out there, please pay attention. This is very important. I think that people who started the movement, we're talking about in Guatemala, Marcos Sanchez Diaz, the founder of Livingston, and Eligio Beni, Walumugu in Honduras, and many other leaders. And when we talk about TV Ramos from the 30s, the 40s, pass it on to people such as yourself, Professor Cayetano, and the leaders that have passed away, and the ones that are carrying the traditions and the culture on their shoulders. They need to pass it on. So I want to call on the youngsters, on the youth of Belize, of the United States, of Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, even in St. Vincent, where there is a revival going on of the Garifuna culture, to please get involved. That's the only way that the torch can be passed on. It is not the responsibility of one person alone or one organization alone. I think it's the responsibility of the community. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some music right now. We're going to go ahead and play some Paula Castillo while we take a water break, and we're going to come back with more with Professor Phyllis Cayetano, who is with us on the line all the way from Dangriga, Belize. This is Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We are live and direct from the studios in Long Beach. It's 7:53. And ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about 1966, the founding of the Waribagaba dance group. That's what Professor Phyllis Cayetano was referring to. And that information has been posted online on my Facebook page. a list of accomplishments and things that were going on under the leadership of Professor Phyllis Cayetano from 1966 all the way to the present. Now that she serves as the manager of Gulisi Community Primary School in Dangriga. Okay, so we're going to go with a little bit of Paula Castillo, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go. We'll be back with more interview with Professor Phyllis Cayetano. Vemos ya. right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I want to say hello to Angela Palacio, who's listening live. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. We're back in the studio again, all the way from Long Beach, California. We have on the line, via telephone line, of course, Professor Phyllis Cayetano. And a host of people are listening to you, Professor. I am excited. I think that people are really interested in finding out, and they respect you. I think they look up to you and they see that you have truly devoted your life to the preservation of the Garifuna culture, the language, the culture, the music, and now through Gulisi School is a whole different level. And that is my next question. Let's see. I asked this question to your husband, Arufo Dahati Roy Cayetano. Gulisi School in Dangriga serves as an example to follow by other communities in Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and the United States, and even in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In order to reinforce the preservation of the language and culture, what would you like to see done with respect to that?
Okay, I think that, first of all, I must say that we were very, very fortunate to have our government, the government in Belize, support our school from the very first day. You see, we had experiences through the National Garifuna Council, where we were able to try to go maybe to a high school or to a primary school once a week to try to teach Garifuna, the speaking of Garifuna. At that time, I can remember in the early 2000s, Miss Destiny Nunes Castillo, she had helped with that. But that couldn't work because you cannot do the work on the preservation, the learning of a language, which even though we say we are Garifuna, our mothers don't speak the language to us anymore. Our fathers, if they are at home, they don't speak it. It has to get assistance, needs an injection from outside. So from the very first day, because a lot of the people that worked on the program, or people who, Garifuna people as a whole, we have been educators and teachers. So we have the experience and we have the respect of the government or people in the education system that we more or less know what we are talking about.
Yes.
So from the first day, we got the government on board and they supported with salaries. They supported way back in 2007 with rent while we built our first little classroom. Salary is very important because people want to know that they're getting paid at the end of the month, and after 30 years or so, they will get a pension and a gratuity. The teachers at Gulisi Community Primary School, which is a grant-aided school supported by the Ministry of Education, get their salaries every month, as do teachers in the other schools. So Mama Timos Nalibela, I don't have to sell clothes on the street side. We don't have to have barbecues every month to pay tax.
Bravo. Well said. That is right. And I think it's only just, I think for a teacher to perform, for a teacher to give it 110% to the children, you got to take care of the teachers. You know, they do a lot to transmit that education to our children. So if we don't treat them right with good salaries, decent salaries, and a decent place to teach, where the children have a proper building where to sit down and the furniture to sit on, you know, and then what do we expect, you know? So if we want a good education, and kudos to the government of Belize, to the Ministry of Education for having put the money where it's rightly being used for something very positive, I think. And the fact that, of course, Dangriga is called, or is recognized as the cultural capital of Belize, and for tourists to come and see a place such as Gulisi Community School, I think it's a big plus. I think it boosts the tourism. And yes, go ahead.
Thank you very, very much. So after putting that in place, and of course, when you have job security like that, the government, the social security scheme, they know that they are covered, which is very, very important as part of their benefits. Our teachers in the country join the teachers union so that everything is above board. When government said the other day, last month, that there was going to be an 8% raise, on their salaries, our teachers benefited from that. So our teachers are very comfortable. They get every benefit that other teachers can get. We were supported in the beginning by UNICEF for some activities because intercultural bilingual education, Lagarba Hono Katelirun Garif Naluma Chumago, that's very, very important for us. And many schools come and they wonder how we do it. We follow the curriculum of the Ministry of Education. That's why our children get the free textbooks provided by the government. They take the primary school leaving exams. And I'm very proud to say that for the past, let me backtrack slowly. When our school started, we had 4 groups, 4 classes: preschool, infant 1, infant 2, and standard 1. And then every year we added a class until we reached standard 6 in 2012. So 2013 we had our first graduating class of about 13 children. And I'm very proud and grateful to those parents who lent us their children. I always say, they only lend us their children. Some parents moved their children from another school to bring to Gulisi because we offered a little bit more. We offered the opportunity to learn their language, the music, the dance, the prayers, the rituals, and some parents, they want that for their children. So, for us to continue with an intercultural bilingual education program, we also had to do heavy training with our teachers. When we interview a teacher for a job, you don't have to be able to speak Garifuna 100%, but I want that you can speak it at least 75%, and I want you to understand it 100%. So other people might apply for a job, but I think merenga dubube Garifuna either bati bidder ha. How are you going to help these children? And we see that as very important because all over the world, we have dying languages. We have people who maybe 5 people left to speak a language. Wow. And UNESCO might work with those people, but then we are still here. So we want that whenever you can translate a word, if you are teaching about 3 blind mice, how do you say 3 in Garifuna? If you're talking about fish in a story, anywhere you can put in a word and the instructions. When you tell the children, close the window. When you tell the children, we are going to pray now, there are phrases we can use. So let me hurry up and say that it has been a great challenge, but it's been a beautiful challenge. We enjoy what we are doing, and I'm very grateful to the teachers that we have because they are the ones who are there every day doing what they can. Now, for me, 8 years later, I wish, and I had said this before, I wish we had a program of early childhood even before preschool, because when the children come to us at age 3, they are already hearing Creole from their parents at home and on the street.
Right.
I went to Argentina one time through UNICEF for a program on education, and we were taken to some centers there where from the age of 3 months the government had centers, early childhood centers, and they got the grandparents, older people, to be there. The language, everything that the children heard was in a native language. So by the time the children are 3, they can speak They can speak Waro or whatever language. We have difficulties because when our children come to us at age 3, their parents have not spoken Garifuna to them.
Wow.
So that if we had early language centers, people, I know a lot of people over the age of 40 or so who might want hidden adagme. They can go and work. They can get into a program where all their instructions, all the singing, all the whatever is happening around there, even the music that is played on the radio in that center, it would be totally Garifuna. Because when we see maybe German children or Polish children, Italian, they learn it from home. So when they go to school, that's when they begin to learn the next language, you know. So the challenge is very, very great.
Yes.
But it's something that if we can get support. Now, NGC is the one that owns our school. I am the manager.
Okay.
Mama, it is not a church. It doesn't. We don't belong. In other words, this is not a church school. It is a community school.
Right.
And so the challenge of support for programs is extremely difficult because it's on a local level. And as you said earlier, we would want people to support what we're doing, not just to say, like you're on Facebook, I like this, but you have to put move that like into some action, because I might not even be alive to see the end result, but then somebody else 20 years down the line can say the language survived because of what we did 2015.
Yes. Professor Cayetano, if anybody is interested in donating money or furniture or any school supplies, what would be the best way to contact you?
Well, we have a Facebook page, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I want to say that there are some organizations. I had mentioned Cheryl before. We have Helen. What's Helen's name out there in LA?
Helen Lowry.
Helen Lowry 2 or 3 years ago had a drive where they were able to send knapsacks and etc. to our school. And another UNICEF here in Belize has helped us. Mrs. Julie Smith out of Chicago. She has a program going where they get used furniture from some schools, and she works on getting them shipped not only to Gulisi because they're distributed here, and then the other schools in town get some furniture. School in Barranco, maybe in St. Bide, little things here and there. Yes. And 3 weeks ago, a Baptist church out of Mississippi did a vacation Bible school project, and they were so generous. They helped us with our plumbing because the bathrooms were not, it needed an extra tank for water, etc., electricity. So God has been very good to us. We are really, really grateful for the little help. But on the Facebook page or a message, I can send the information if anybody wants to assist us. And I want to say at this point, one of the things that I really want to do as quickly as possible, we need to put up a classroom so we can get a computer lab up there and a library. Today's children, you see them with the smartphones. They are using the tablets, the smartphones, etc. In our school, we don't teach anything about computers because we don't have any for the children. Oh. We don't have a lab. So that even if they advance Lina Garifuna, they'll be behind where technology is not so, right?
Yes,
they'll be behind. Except if and our children, Gudemetu Warahim, they come. Some of them might have a laptop. Their family might have a computer at home, or they can go to an internet cafe. But as in a school where the children can get some instruction, etc., we don't have that yet. So that is our next goal, that we can put up. We only need 3 walls, a roof, etc., and in the telephone company here, which gives free computer internet access to schools, they tell us as soon as we have a computer lab, then they can make the access available to our children. And so when we talk about what to do next, that to me that is extremely important, because the children have to have skills, marketable skills, and language, music, dance, those are important, but knowledge of the technology, using the technology, today's technology is extremely important. I don't know how you see it, but I'm sure that that is the way that we need to go.
Yes, definitely. So the Facebook page, can you please share that information, how to access the Facebook page? What is the name?
Gulisi Community Primary School.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, take
Gulisi.
note. Yes, go ahead.
Gulisi, Gulisi.
Okay.
Community Primary School. We have a Facebook page, okay?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so please do make your donations. Contact Professor Phyllis Cayetano. She is available on Facebook as well as Gulisi Community School. I want to acknowledge the wonderful people who are tuning in. We have a full house tonight. We have listeners even in Garifuna territory in Nicaragua. Grigita Sambula Bratigam is tuning in all the way in Bluefields, Nicaragua. So big up to you, Grigita Sambula. Thank you for listening. A wonderful guest that we have tonight, Professor Phyllis Cayetano. It's getting a little bit late. Let's rush with the questions. I have my next question. In your opinion, Professor, what is the best approach in teaching children the language and the culture? I think you already touched a little bit on that.
As I said, yes, immersion from a very, very early age. And I feel that we have always said, we look at a language and we talk about it as the mother tongue. But if our mothers between the ages of 18 and 40 are not speaking Garifuna, the problem starts there. So I think that we need, as I said, not only in our school, because I think that all schools, wherever they are, should look at the child that comes to them and look at the language that the child that is prevalent in their community and assist them with that language. So we have in San Jose, and also in Aguacate, they teach the Maya, Mopan Maya. They help with that because we also know, Ronnie, you know that there are people who are not literate in their language. They might speak it, but they cannot write it.
Correct.
And so that happens in Spanish, that happens in any language. So we need to start from very early. We need maybe even with our PTAs. Sometimes Roy gives classes here, and sometimes you might have 10 people, sometimes you might have 12 people, sometimes nobody comes because they feel it is not important. So education is even very, very important, very, very important. If there is a radio station, the way you work your radio station, and even the things that are posted on Facebook, but let's face it, how many people are on Facebook?
Yes.
You have social status. You have to have a certain kind of phone or whatever to be on Facebook. So when you post a message on Facebook, not everybody will see that message. Yes. So we need to use all the communication tools. But for our children, as I said, we ask the teachers. Now, we have a task that first, when the education officers come to visit our school and inspect our school and inspect the logbook, etc., they have to see that we are performing the way the Ministry of Education wants us to perform. The rest is up to us. I looked forward to the day when parents can come to school and say, I'm going to come here, I'm going to read with the children, or I'll take this class and get Wadimrahan. But I think that is maybe something for the grandparents now because of what has happened over the past 30 years where the language has been eroding. Yes. You know, and I want to say I'm proud of the people in Nicaragua. I'm proud of Kenzie, the Sambolas and so on. Those people have asked NGC over the past 10 or 15 years for all sorts of assistants, Roy loves going there, Canon Valentine. They lo friend yaya la lo haya lo haduguraha. The people in Nicaragua, in Bluefields, are very serious and passionate about the revival of Garifuna language in their community. I can say right now, even in St. Vincent, we know that Georgette is out there, and we know that Christine Vernon is out there. They're helping Trish with a 2.5-week revival. They're singing, they're learning vocabulary words, they're learning sentences. Those people right now, in fact, they have a big concert coming up on Sunday.
Yes.
Because St. Vincent is working on retrieval of what they had lost. Since we still have it, we have to work on preserving what we have. And all of us have to be in it together. We need to write more stories. We need to publish the stories. We need to use every opportunity. And Luma Busigeri Wama, Pen Cayetano said, Uwala Busigan, why on earth would we be ashamed of speaking our language? No? We don't do that anymore, because there's a lot of work that we need to do.
Thank you for that. Wow. Deep, very deep message, Professor Phyllis Cayetano. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. This is Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We have a few more minutes, and I know it's been a long interview for Professor Cayetano, and we truly love the message that you're conveying to our listeners. And like I said before, we are recording this show so it could stay available online for anybody who wants to go back and take a listen to it. You have been a teacher and administrator at the high school level before becoming manager of Golisi Community Primary School. What are some of the challenges besides the one you already mentioned, that the need for school supplies and things like that you have encountered so far as a manager of primary school?
I think that one of the main challenges is that running a primary school, it's like streamlined. There are certain expectations that come with managing a primary school. Wow. In other words, the subjects that you teach, there are 5 subjects there, like core subjects. I think in the States you talk about a core curriculum, right? So you have those, and then there's the freedom to work with special subjects that you might want to put into your school. We are a public school. We have very, very few private schools in the primary school system here in Belize. So we are a public school, so we don't charge tuition. You cannot do that, because that's why the government assists you. When you administrate, or when you are manager of a high school, you have a board of directors to work with. You can decide with the approval of government that you're going to charge tuition 40, 50, whatever. Government approves that. You have your registration fees, which, like right now, it's high. It might be high for some people, and government tries to subsidize part of it. But if you have 900 children, you can look at a budget and say, this is what we can expect to get if all the children come, and we can project and say, this is what we're going to do next year. There's some money that we hope to get, and government pays the tuition, so every month you can be guaranteed of that. After you get a little tuition in the primary school system, you have to fundraise if you want to buy chalk every month, if you want to buy new brooms, yes. To pay your electricity, because you cannot tell the children that you're charging them $10 a month for that. So that is a challenge, Yes. And also because you like nowadays you have to look at we're learning more and more that we should put our best teachers in the early years, because those are the formative years. You would want to put your best teachers for your preschool and your infant division. Mm-hmm. And then the middle years, those are important as well, but they're not as critical as your first few years and the last, because when it comes to grades, Standard 5 and Standard 6, in your system it's grades 7 and 8. those in Belize, we take an exam, a school leaving exam, to get you a place in high school. And so it's critical, it's very important that our children get that place in high school. And so when you're looking at the how you're going to deploy teachers, how you're hiring teachers, etc., you have to bear all of those things in mind. And so it is a challenging thing financially and so on to be able to manage a school, especially, and we are the only one. It's not like we have a sister school. And then when you're a pioneer, all eyes are on you. Is that so? Right?
Yes,
all
indeed.
eyes are on you.
Wow, great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank to the listeners in Seattle, Washington, in Belize City. We have an audience as well. We have Tegucigalpa and, of course, San Pedro Sula. They're listening. I think that the people who are taking a break from the Cumbre Afrodescendientes in Honduras are listening to us right now. So thank you so much. It's a wonderful guest tonight, Professor Phyllis Cayetano, who is with us. We're almost finished, Professor, so bear with me. I know it's been a long hour and 25 minutes. I'm sorry about that. You have traveled far and wide, but when you went to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the home of the Garifuna, it was a very special trip to you, as it has been for many Garinagu who have been there for the first time. Can you share with us some of the fondest moments you have had, or you had, when you visited Yurumin?
Okay, I want to say that perhaps my first, well, let me start at the beginning, Kelerengu Eremu. Way back in the late 60s, one of our leaders, Honorable David McCoy, had worked on bringing 3 people from St. Vincent to Belize, to Dangriga, so that we could see our country people, our countrymen, the people who are left behind. I remember that there was a huge ceremony at the football field in order for us to see Yurumen, people from the mother country. And I also want to say that when Mr. Cornelius Catch had worked in Trinidad or studied or something like that, he had visited St. Vincent and had that dream as well that more of us would be able to visit St. Vincent, our motherland. And when you work a lot in the Settlement Day movement, we sing about that. We remember the journey. Wabugo Ogunwa, we remember that. When we have Settlement Day celebrations here, we reenact that. People come to Dangriga, Hopkins, wherever, Lu Herihine, commemorate Wamane, Habugo Ogunwa, Wayunogu. So that was always touching to me as a child, as an adult, and when I got an opportunity through to take one of the winners of our Miss Garifuna Belize pageants there in 1981, it was an experience.
Your call was ended because you no longer...
Okay, so we're going to add more minutes to the phone right now, and we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, for more on the interview with Professor Phyllis Cayetano, all the way from Dangriga, Belize. Bear with us. This is Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga, and we're live from the studios in Long Beach. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, every Wednesday we bring to you the best of interviews from the diaspora. Que motia? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're back. We're gonna continue our interview. Our apologies as we ran out of credits. The phone call hung up. But we're back. We have Professor Phyllis Cayetano on the line, all the way from Dangriga. So, we kind of lost track. I don't know if you still remember where you left off, Professor.
Yes, I do. I was saying that when you go to St. Vincent, when that plane lands, you have cold speed, Iufatibura, because you had seen a lot of reenactments. There were stories that were passed on. Gulisi herself was a storyteller. Every celebration we talk about what the British had done to us, and you get to the island, a small island, very small island, and you say to yourself, how did they survive that journey? When they were on those 11 ships, when they were exiled, we don't say deported anymore because they were exiled from their own country until they reached Roatan, and then from there later on. So you are moved to tears. You're really moved to tears. And you see people, and they are our people. They look like us. Their customs are like us. We eat breadfruit, we eat fish, and so on. But the most chilling part of a trip to St. Vincent is when you go to Baliso. You go to the island of Baliso and you say, how did they leave our people there for all these 9 months or so? No wonder so many of them did not survive. You cannot take a boat the way we do in any of our villages and take it up to the sandy shore. Those are rocks. And most of all, though, the fact that we have survived the exile, we are still here, we can still speak Garifuna, we can still do Gagilwa Duguraha. We can still dress in the fashion that we were accustomed to. We have a lot that we can be proud of, but it happened at such great sacrifice from the people who were exiled. So when you go to St. Vincent, I think you become recommitted. Kamalea, it's like you're baptized all over, like you become converted all over, and you say, for the sacrifice that those people made, I have to be better. I have to do better. And even though I have been privileged to travel to many, many countries, going to St. Vincent is something that I would like to do again, and I would encourage anybody, let's get back to the motherland, because those people are there today waiting to see us, waiting to welcome us back home, waiting to share with us because we survived, and we have something that we can still share with them. I think that is the feeling that I have about St. Vincent.
Amazing, Professor. Thank you for sharing with us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We're live on the line with Professor Phyllis Cayetano all the way from Dangriga, and we are live on 2 stations, RadioCentroamerica.com and LMBRoots.com radio all the way in the Bronx, New York. Thank you for listening, Barbara Norales, Fraylene Castillo, Kim Arsu, Grigita Sambola, Amanda Leal, Felicia Johnson, also listening, Ishiotic Sister, Young Lion, of course, checking in all the way in New York. Thank you so much. My next question, Professor, is how do you find the time to be a mother, a wife, and a leader? What is your secret to staying looking young and vibrant?
Oh boy, you just made me laugh. I am going to say today that Roy and I have been married 44 years now, and in the very early years, he had told me that the kind of person who was active, I was already active in organizations, in education, etc. That's the person that he married and he wanted to keep. I could not say, oh, I'm just a housewife, or I'm just a teacher. There are many facets, there are many aspects to being Phyllis. And once we did that and mutually respect our schedules, our likes, our dislikes, then the marriage we were able to grow the marriage, so to speak. So that parenting is a joint activity, even though for many, many years I was the one who held the fort from Monday to Friday while he worked outside of town. And even as we grow older, for example, he is at the summit in La Ceiba, and I'm here, but I can continue to do my own thing, so to speak, because I have something that I can share with others, and he respects the fact that that I want to share that. So rearing the children and so on, that wasn't difficult because they were not difficult children anyway, So I think that once you know what you're about and what you want to achieve and what you do, and you can support one another, and of course families and friends that support us, then it wasn't a very, very difficult activity. In fact, the house is empty now, and I'm glad that 2 boys are here and a granddaughter. And in a couple of weeks, I met Tamala Dumuna, and then I go back to, I'm having an emptiness. But then we also receive a lot of visitors because the family is large, and so is the world, and there are people that come visiting with us, and we are always happy to be able to share with others,
Beautiful. Well, that means you're going to have me in your house. Me and Cheryl are going to come and visit for the first time sometime in next year.
I think you should, but let us know ahead of time because you might not find a room if you come at the wrong time.
Ouch! Don't worry, we can sleep by the tree, under the palm tree, or anywhere. Don't worry about that. Thank you so much, Professor Phyllis Cayetano. You are very inspiring. You truly are a very inspiring woman. What is your advice to the many hardworking women out there who face tough challenges in life, of course, such as being economically empowered, getting an education, fighting against social injustice, and inclusion of more women in the key positions, not only in government but in the private enterprise?
I think that you have to go in there prepared. In other words, you don't just go in assuming that because you're a woman, you deserve to be there. I think that you have to be able to say that you are as educated, right? You are as experienced, you are as committed, etc., etc. And so once you are on a playing field with them where they cannot say this one better and the other one better. I was privileged to work with the Women's Commission way back in the 80s. And the Women's Commission would want women to empower themselves. You can not when you earn your salary, it can't just be yours. It is ours, and vice versa. That is not very easy these days. So I think that women's education is extremely important, and you go as high as you can without having to sacrifice so much down the line. There are times when we see people, they have done a lot, but the Bible says something about what does it profit a man to have gained the whole world and suffer the loss of his soul. You don't want to suffer the loss of your children.
Right.
You don't want to suffer the loss of your family because you might be on an ego trip. You have to think it out and work it out so that it will work for you. And sometimes you might have to step back a little and say, I can't do this at this time. I have someone who told me just recently, I'm having problems meeting all my bills. I would like to go back to school, but I can't do it this September. I think I'll wait until January. And I admire that woman because it's like the children, she can't let the children wait till next year. She can wait until at least next January. So more and more jobs are becoming scarce. But there are people, today I sent my boys somewhere go buy Johnny cakes for me. I admire the women who can get a young dogo musu fuluwa lo herengo a bigger had na sengu fiada. I admire the women who, like the other day, we had a lot of mangoes in season, and with their children, they had buckets of mangoes. They got on the bus and went somewhere to sell mangoes. I don't think that you need to prostitute yourself. I don't think you need to sell your soul because you want this and that. And we also need to learn that you cannot afford an iPhone 6 and you don't have a house. You cannot afford,
Good point. Yes.
you know, you can't afford to be going on all these fancy vacations or have all this jewelry. You have to have priorities then. And good things come to those who wait. So if you
Yes.
budget, if you plan, you put education in there and you make sacrifices, time flies and suddenly you'll see that your burden is easier. It is much easier. I also think that spirituality is important. Lunti, we have to learn to say, to be grateful. We have to say our prayers. We have to respect that we did not make ourselves. Mama was saying we did not make ourselves out of some dough. God created. There's a being that created us. And we have to say thanks. We have to respect even our ancestors. So that there is a lot to that we probably need to revisit, and so that we don't become bitter and angry and we want to be, just vicious about things, about our partners. I want to use this forum. There are people who are very cruel to their children.
Yes.
They're so frustrated that they're cruel to the children. You can't do that. We can't do that. And in 18 years, your house is empty. The child has gone. But then maybe so has the love, because
Wow.
the children will remember the cruelty that you have exerted on them.
Wow.
So that is another talk show. That
Yes.
is another talk show. We
That's
couldn't
deep. That's
cover all of
deep,
those.
Professor. Now, Garifuna life has changed dramatically for better and for worse, of course. From time to time, you were born to this day and age. Of course, things have changed dramatically. Where do you see Garinagu in the next 20 years? What would you see? What would you like to see happen?
I want to start off by saying that despite all the negatives, in all our communities, we see our young people, the way they dress, the young men, how they conduct themselves. We see violence even against women. There are a lot of negatives. But, I see, like this summer alone, here in Dangriga, from where I live, I can talk about at least 4 Dugu activities. Gajaya Duguruhani associated with Dangriga. And then they had in Saint Bite, they had in Hopkins, they had in Punta Gorda, they had in Barranco. And the Ahari, they are the forces that keep us together. They force us to keep our love together, because you have to go back to your relatives. They have to unite. So that unity, that knowing your family, I think that was very strong, and I would hope that having that strong family bond will help us to keep ourselves grounded. When you heard those drums, when you saw the boats go to the Hebuga Adugaha, Garifuna culture is alive and kicking. Yes. And I think that is something, even in Labuga, because Unity Roy did something in Labuga about 3 weeks ago, and that keeps us, even as a nation across borders, to quote Dr. Palacio, that the Unity ST, Adia, Lundugu, Labuga. I'm sorry, Saint Bay, the Unity ST, Lundugu, Yara Barang. When the temple was burnt down, the Buyaba was burnt down the other day in April. By the middle of July, the family, the community in Barranco had it up again, and the Cayetanos had a huge digu Ligebuga around the middle of July. Amazing. And that is the anchor. It keeps us anchored. I would like to see that the songs that we sing in the temple and that we sing from off the radio, that we understand those songs.
Yes.
But I feel that if the family is strong and united, and if we can bring our children, we have to recognize that times have changed. We have to recognize that our children want more, but we have to keep our value system. I also want to mention that we cannot afford to be buying things all the time. I would like to see that more people would try to plant something in their yards, so that they will save $5, even if it's $5 for the year. If you can plant your lime tree or plantain tree, if you can latch onto a farm and do some planting, then you are kind of securing food for yourself.
Yes,
We have a project at Golisi where we have a garden, and last year for Cultural Expo, Ayahatua Naomi from Honduras helped us, but the cassava came from the garden, from the farm. So we need to do some of those things to help ourselves, because you're miserable when you don't have money to buy plantain, miserable when you don't have money to buy rice. But if you grew plantains and yams and some fruit trees, then you are, kind of helping yourself. So so there's a lot that we can still do, and I worry about language, yes, but if all of us use the technology, the radio station, use Facebook, use the other things on the internet, if we write, if we publish, I feel that that we will have at our fingertips, and then the leaders, the youth that are so tech savvy these days, they can help us with the rest. But I feel that families that are already strong can stay strong and maybe teach us how we too can be strong. And finally, though, I feel that that we also have to go back to looking at our own health and practice healthy activities. We won't even talk about disease, illnesses such as diabetes are there. And eating right, the right food. So when we talk about but then our people were not eating canned goods and so on as much as they're doing now. And I'm not a health person, but I know that we see more and more cases of illnesses like diabetes in our communities, and then we wonder what should we do. So there is a lot, and if you teach one person who can teach another person, or if we can practice healthy lifestyles, then that will help us a lot.
Yes. Thank you, Professor, so much for your wise advice, and thank you for allowing us to get to know you for 1 hour and 45 minutes. Dear God, what have I done to you? It's been a long time, but I truly appreciate it. I think the audience has really enjoyed your company. You are very grateful. You are a very savvy woman, very smart. Thank you for sharing in the knowledge. Is there anything else you would like to add to this interview that we haven't addressed?
As I said at the beginning, I am extremely pleased and honored to have been a part of this show. I think that I would just want to tell the audience that if you think of the number of one person making a change can lead to another person making an effort at least. So even if you see yourself as only one person, when we think of great leaders like T.V. Ramos or Mahatma Gandhi, and even Martin Luther King, and so on, sometimes you start alone, and it's lonely when you're at the top. But you don't give up because you are committed to that dream. So I feel that sometimes people feel like they cannot be, they cannot do anything or anything great. But you don't feel that way. Even if it's in the life of one child, I think that if you make that one effort, it's like a chain, it just goes on and on. So I have been very privileged to speak to you, or with you, and to the audience through you tonight, and feel that what I have done, I did it sometimes unknowingly. Sometimes I look back and I say, where did I find the time, or why did I do it? And it gives me, it humbles me that I have been able to touch somebody, teach somebody, help somebody, and I feel even if it is not, I'm not the one, I'm not asking for any benefit from it, but it is something, it's like paying it forward.
Thank you so much,
You're
Professor.
cold.
We ran out of credits at this point. I think we're going to let Professor Phyllis Cayetano rest. Thank you so much for the time that you have given us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We had on the line all the way from Dangrega, Belize, the manager behind Gulisi Community Primary School, Professor Phyllis Cayetano, who stayed with us for almost 1 hour and 50 minutes. Thank you and good night. We're going to play some good music right now. So we're going to process this interview and we're going to make it available on demand for all of you to listen to if you missed it. So, buiti gunyo, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Kemotia.
Aga bonito, adena, wabina,
camote, Aha. Nice. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We'll see you next Wednesday. Only about 4 minutes to go. 4 minutes. I want to thank Professor Philos Cayetano for this wonderful interview. Very exclusive. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. Cheryl and I, thank you. Gafu presentó Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. Es un programa semanal de 7 de la noche a 9 de la noche todos los miércoles a través de www.radiocentroamerica.com en Los Ángeles y www.lmbroots.com radio en Nueva York. Tune in next Wednesday again for Garifuna Music and Talk with DJ Labuga. We're live and direct through www.radiocentroamerica.com and lmbroots.com radio in New York. Wednesdays from 7 to 9 p.m.
Velo, balito, velo, oh, Samina, baby, velo, balito, Abawurito.